So I got tagged in this tag. So this was actually an April Fool's joke that the original person, The Secret of NIMH, had created for her audience. And so she had tagged other people to do the tag. And so Nicole from Nicole's Bookish Nook had actually tagged me in this, probably because she knows that I read romance. You know, most of what I read is romance. So she probably thought I was the perfect person to talk about this. So, the first question is, what's your favorite X-rated book? Now, I will say, like, anything X-rated, I would probably attribute that to something that's like banned, you know, like anything that's banned from Amazon, I would consider more X-rated, you know, because obviously, clearly there was something that Amazon thought was wrong with it. And since Amazon is the one that distributes that stuff out, obviously they have a say in what, you know, gets kept on there and what doesn't. So, you have to find other alternatives to put your book out. And so there's two that I've read that are banned books, but I wouldn't say that they're my favorite. I do own them. I would not recommend them to everybody because I've read them. There are certain individuals I would only recommend them to. But I would say, like, ones that I would consider like not for the, you know, I'd say not for the faint of heart, or people who get like triggered very easily. These are maybe some books that might not be, you know, up to their, you know, standards of what they want to read. So the first one I thought of, this one I read years ago, and I don't think it's available anymore through paperback. I don't think so. So I read this one, and this author she's more in the line of like erotic romance. So I ended up reading, this is a 21st century courtesan. Now this woman is a modern day escort. And so she sleeps with multiple men in here until it gets to a point where she meets this man and she starts having feelings for him. And so it goes from there, and they get into this relationship. And so she has to basically tell him what she does for a living and go from there. So this one here, like I said, it's not going to be something that's going to be for everybody to read. There's going to be people who obviously find what she does morally wrong, you know, that type of thing, especially because it's not like she was pushed into this profession by force. She actually likes what she does, you know? So it's like her kind of questioning, you know, can I keep doing this? Or, you know, do I, you know, take a chance and go along and find love with this person, you know? And so I really enjoyed it for its time. I don't think it got really great reviews. I'll just say that. I don't think it got great reviews, but I think there's a reason why it didn't. So I did enjoy this when I read it years ago. So the next one I would say would be problematic for some people, because this one here is definitely more of a relationship it's a bullying relationship. There's bullying, and then also there's consensual non-consent going on with at least one or two of the scenes. I think just one, but still it's problematic for some people. So this one here I really enjoyed when I read it. So you have this character of Truly, and she goes basically for the summer she's going to, I can't remember what it was again. Yeah, it was like a road trip romance. And yeah, she wants to discover more of herself. I think her mom had passed away or something like that. So I need to reread this one again. It's been a while. So I think it was something like her mother left her these letters, and so she wanted to kind of go on this road trip to like things that her mother did, like when her mother was younger and type of thing. Kind of like fall in the steps of like how her mother was when she was younger. And so her ex-boyfriend's, was it stepbrother? Half-brother. Yeah, her ex-boyfriend's half-brother likes her. And he goes about some things that are not right, you know. Definitely, like I said, there's the scene where it's consensual non-consent, and then there's a lead up to, you know, them being intimate and everything. And it has things in there, like I said, that could be problematic for some people, but I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because I liked to see his progression of how he was to where he, came, where he ended up becoming, something different. And I really enjoyed that progression of his character. And so I ended up really enjoying this one. But like I said, it says it's a dark romance. It's a dark romance for a reason. It's not going to be for everybody. Like I said, there's consensual non-consent in here, which, if you don't know what that is, it's basically like this person who's doing sexual acts with this other person and are not saying yes, but they're also not saying no either. So it's kind of, borderline sexual assault. I'll just say that. And so that's the one that I actually enjoyed. It's not something I normally go to and want to read because sometimes it triggers me and it irritates me and I don't always like it. The author, the way she went about it, I thought was really well done, and that's why, that one I'd say is a bit, definitely up there. And then this one here, I would definitely say is not for the faint of heart. I've talked about this one before, but I really enjoyed Butcher and Blackbird. This actually is one that I am very surprised is traditionally published because it's, besides it having like a lot of horror scenes, you got cannibalism in here, other scenes with other bodily juices and all that stuff. I'll just say that. But there also is a romance in here and it's highly sexualized. So I would say for people, you don't go into this lightly. I would say if you are a fan of dark romance and if you're a fan of horror, you probably would enjoy this. But if you're not, I would stay away. This would be something I would tell people you might want to stay away, especially if you're, say if you read more Emily Henry, which I don't consider her romance, but say if your go-to authors is like Emily Henry or Allie Hazelwood, the person upstairs, or say the other person is, that's very distracting, or the other person you like is like Abby Jimenez. I wouldn't suggest this author, I would not, Sorry if you hear banging. The people that live upstairs from me constantly are banging or throwing stuff on the floor. They're noisy as shit. It's so annoying. Okay, now it talks about your favorite scene from your favorite X-rated book. Ooh, okay, this is kind of complicated. Okay, so I would say the scene that I liked in here is they very much had her and the guy, I think his name was Joshua. Yep. Her and Joshua end up having this conversation where she goes and tells him about what she does. And he talks about in his youth, things that he had did that he kind of regrets, or, so he sympathizes with why her reasoning behind, what she does. So I really enjoyed that conversation between them. I thought it was very healthy. He didn't judge her. And he also told her more about himself. So I really enjoyed that. And then with this here, again, the progression of how he ended up changing, to be a better man for her, I thought was really well done. And, yeah, the sexy times are nice too, but I also want to see a relationship, not just sexy times. So, and then with this one here, same here. It's seeing them come together, seeing them, you know, have a relationship, that to me was probably like, you know, the scenes in here that were good. You know, there was a scene in here, but I really don't want to like say too much for the fact that it's like, it can be really gross. So I will say, like, there was a scene in here where he ingested something that he probably didn't want to ingest. And so she finds out about it and tells him, and he's just like, and starts like throwing up and everything. And just like, it was funny. I will laugh at it, but it also was like messed up too. So I thought it was funny, but also was like, man, that's messed up. I enjoyed that scene. I'll just say that. I enjoyed that scene. So number 3 is, what's your favorite adult rated movie? You know, obviously they said not talking about corn. Alternatively, what's your favorite romance movie? So I had to think about this. Now, I would say the first movie I would say that is probably more of like teetering on the sort of X-rated is the movie Secretary. Now, I really enjoyed this movie when it came out because it really opens up kind of like the lens of like kink and BDSM kind of relationships in what you'd probably consider a healthy way. Like, there are unhealthy types of kink that, you know, harms people. This here was something to where once she learned more about it, she got into it and really enjoyed herself. It gave her like this, you know, like she felt happier. Like, she was a very depressed person. You know, like when you first like look into the beginnings of it, she's a very depressed person. You don't really know what reasons why she's depressed. So, and then she's bored and she needs some kind of outlet. So she ends up working for this guy. And James Spader, I will say, phenomenal actor. I love James Spader. Like, no matter what he's in, I usually like him in. Besides this movie here, Secretary, I've also liked him in, you know, obviously 80s movies. Like, he was in Pretty in Pink and he was a dick in there. But also, I really loved him in, if nobody's ever seen 2 Days in the Valley, he plays a hitman in there. He plays a fantastic role. I love him in that movie. That movie's great. If you've never seen 2 Days in the Valley, I suggest you watch it. So good. So it's really interesting film for Secretary because you have this guy who's like, he seems like he's very like straight-laced, very strict, and then you see his outlet of what he does in his free time, and it's like, whoa, okay. So it was a very interesting movie because it kind of introduces you a little bit more to kink, to the BDSM type of lifestyle in a more healthy way without it, like, he saw what she was doing to herself and he like told her stop. Like, she would do self-harm. He told her stop doing that and she stopped. So he was doing things in a healthy way for her to have some type of outlet to get out her whatever her needs were, and he was there to help facilitate it with her. And I really enjoyed that one. I thought it was really well done. And obviously, you know, kink and the BDSM lifestyle type of thing, it's not for everybody, of course, but I really enjoyed that film. I thought it was really well done. And I'd say that's the one movie I actually liked Maggie Gyllenhaal in. I'm not a huge fan of her. I would just say I'm not a huge fan of her, but I really enjoyed her in there. And that one I'd say is definitely close to like sort of like X-rated because, you know, they are doing different acts like him smacking her and, you know, like smacking her butt and different things like that. You know, different kinks in the kink community that people do as a way of like getting out whatever it is that they need to get out, you know? So I really enjoyed that one. As for romances, as for like a romance, because I will say, she said also romances. One of my favorite romances, and it's not like X-rated or anything like that, nothing bad. One of my favorite romances of all time, I could watch it every year, is While You Were Sleeping. I love that movie. It is such a sweet movie. You know, Lucy is, you know, Sandra Bullock's character. She's a lonely woman. She's been in the city of Chicago for how many years? Like, she basically gave up, her like a college career because her father got sick, so she took care of him until his end of his days and everything, because it was just basically her and her dad. Like her mother died like at a very young age. She doesn't remember her mom, so she always like would talk about all of these like adventures that her and her dad wanted to go on, and then her dad got sick and she, you know, never was able to do that. So she works basically at like the train station and goes and like collects the tokens and all that stuff. And so she has this crush on, oh God, what's his name again? What is his name? What is his name? Peter? No, the actor's, I know the actor's, his name is Peter Gallagher, but I think, what's his name? Peter in there too? Like Peter played Peter. So he's basically trying to get onto a, you know, like the subway area, you know, train area. And he ends up like getting pushed onto the rails. And so she sees it, and so she rescues him. So she goes to the hospital and she tries to like see him, but she can't see him because he's family. She's not family with him. And so she kind of like, oh, I was going to marry him. And then, and the nurse interprets it as, oh, that's her fiance, and ends up like telling his whole family that, you know, that's his fiance. And she's like, oh my God, I'm not his fiance. How do I tell these people that I'm not, you know, I'm not his fiance? And so she ends up meeting his brother, Jack, and her and Jack have this like get to know each other friendship and everything. And it, you know, it ends up evolving into a romance, and they end up falling for each other. So I really love that one. It's one I can watch like around the Christmas time area, because it's almost sort of like Christmas book, because there was scenes where there was like Christmas time, her setting up a tree and all that stuff. So I kind of consider that a Christmas movie. And so it's something I like to watch around November, December every year. Favorite movie of mine. I loved it. I love Sandra Bullock. She's a great actress. There's multiple movies I really enjoy her in. But I love that movie. It's such a sweet film, and I just don't get tired of it. I can watch it every year, and it's still a great film, you know, still a great film. The next one is, what's the best sex scene in a movie you've ever seen? Okay, I have at least two that live rent-free in my head and that I cannot get out. Now, there are some movies that I've watched that I felt like, yeah, there's sex in it, but it was very like gratuitous and not really to my liking. Like, it wasn't making love, it was more fucking. So for me, I don't necessarily like that type of stuff. I prefer more of it to be romantic. Like, definitely like hit you in the feels of like, oh my God, kind of thing. Yeah, I like romances like that. You know, those are the books I tend to like, or movies I tend to like. Same thing with my books. So two movies I really enjoyed over the years, and I still like enjoy them today, is one is Cruel Intentions. There's a scene where, because, you know, basically this is obviously a play on another movie that's I think based on a book. I don't remember what the book's called, but there was another one that was called Dangerous Liaisons, and like I said, I think it's a book. I'll have to look it up and put it right here. If it is a book, it might be. So basically the rich people, so we have these two siblings, which are step siblings. You know, they're not related that way. And so they basically make a bet that the brother, which is played by Ryan Felipe, that he can seduce Reese Witherspoon's character. What was her name? I forget what her name was. But Annette, that's what it was. Annette. I remember him screaming it. But there's a scene where she's going up the escalator, and she's, you know, ready to leave. And so he ends up meeting her there, and then she's like, you know, I'm impressed. And he's like, well, I'm in love. And so you see the scene of like them doing it. And I was like, whew, you know, that one to me was pretty, you know, interesting. I liked it. I liked that scene. So I'd say that one was a good lovemaking scene. And then the next one I would say lives rent-free in my head is The Notebook. Now, the book, I'm not really a fan of. This is the case where I actually enjoyed the movie more than the book. You know, there were some sweet little scenes in the book that I enjoyed, but I've repeated this, Nicholas Sparks is not a romance author. Sorry, he is not. He's a fiction author with romantic elements in his books. And also at the end of the book, Allie dies and Noah's left by himself. In the movie, at the end, it looks like they both fell asleep and basically died in their sleep. That was more sweeter to me. It was implied, you know, like it was very much implied. So you could take it as you can interpret it the way you want to. But to me, I felt like, oh, they both died at the end. That was a sweeter story than the book. So in The Notebook, the movie, Allie, you know, she and Noah knew each other years ago when they were teenagers. Things didn't work out, and then years went by. He went through a war. She got engaged to another dude, and then she sees him in the newspaper and basically just passes out. So she goes back to where he is and basically sees him again, talks to him, and they're going through like this boat, you know, down the lake area and everything. Very pretty area, very beautiful area. And it starts to rain. So they start rowing back, and she ends up like confronting him when it's raining. And she's like, why didn't you write me? And so he tells her that he wrote to her every day for years. She didn't get those letters. Her mother was withholding those letters. And so, you know, he knew it wasn't over. He's like, told her it wasn't over. And then they have their, you know, intimate scene. And that to me was like, woo! You know, I really enjoyed that one a lot. It was very romantic. A lot of people talk about The Notebook, but I'm like, I actually really enjoyed that one. And that one, I would say, is a movie that I actually enjoyed more than the book. You know, I didn't really, you know, thought the book was okay, you know, and then fucking Nicholas Sparks decided to make The Wedding, which is the second book, which shows poor Noah by himself. But at least with the movie, it looked like they both died at the end. And I'm like, I prefer that ending. Thank you. You know, I think obviously it was the director, Nick Cassavetes. His mother is Jenna Rollins. I think that's her name, Jenna Rollins. His you know, mother's was the older Allie in the movie. That was his mother. So I thought he did a really good job with directing it and the screenplay and all that stuff. This was where I'd say Hollywood did a good job when it came to the book, because I really enjoyed that movie over the book, you know? So that, yeah, that right there, I really enjoyed. And then the last one is Tag People, which I won't, but I will say, like, if you want to do this tag, then do it. I don't want to tag people in case they don't want to do it, you know. But yeah, if you want to do this tag, then do it. But yeah, interesting tag. Even if it is, you know, even if it is an April Fool's joke, you know, because the original person doesn't read romance, you know, they don't, you know, get into all that stuff. So I think it's really interesting to create a tag, even if it is just a April Fool's joke. It's still funny. So yeah, that's it for this video here. Is there anything that, you know, you have read or watched that you're a fan of that's, you know, definitely probably like NC-17 possibly, you know, that type of thing? Let me know down below what you've read or have watched, and go from there. But yeah, that's it for this video here. Have yourselves a good day. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to each other, and I'll see you all on the next video. All right. Bye.